Okay, I'll go to it.
It's ready now?
It's running.
All right. Well, let's do this then. Let's talk about. It started now? It's
Yeah,
running?
you're
Okay.
good.
This is a segment of the little tape that we're making for little Jacob and all who come behind with
And
us.
all little Jacob's siblings.
Yes, we never know how many that's going to be.
Should be 9 or 10 more.
Yeah, I'm sure it will. With Amy, she's going to have 8 or 10. With Julie, she's probably good for 6 or 7. And heck,
And
me
there
and
were a bunch
Vicky may
of
have
little
3 or 4.
Did you tell Sandy about the baby? About my mother being so
No,
upset?
I didn't, but I will. We're going to talk about where we grew up and how different that is from where we are now.
Oh, totally different.
When we were growing up in Ayrton, Alabama, down in the southeastern corner of the state of Alabama, very much an agricultural community.
Mm-hmm.
You think that was a town? I believe urban population 600.
I know it was so small that we didn't even have a traffic light nor a stop sign on the roads. We could zip through.
Yeah,
on
they
our
finally
bicycle.
put one in before we moved away, I think.
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Yeah, they finally put in the traffic light because they needed something to hang the Christmas lights on. And they looked to see what all other towns did to hang the Christmas lights, and the power was provided by the traffic lights.
Mm-hmm.
So Ayrton put up a traffic light so it would have a place to plug in the Christmas lights.
And it gave them a topic of conversation.
Yes, it did. Of which our grandparents were very actively involved, especially Granddaddy Baker. Very actively involved in the community. And it was a real small little town, I think. As I remember, we had a Baptist church and a Methodist church.
Mm-hmm.
And if you live there, you went to one of them. Pick one to go, generally the closest one.
So you didn't have to walk very far.
What do you remember about school there? Do you remember first grade? Did you have Ms. O'Louise as your
I
first
did, and the most fond memory I have of school in Ayrton was Mrs. Ziegler's ice cream. 5th grade teacher, you had Mrs. Ziegler,
Yeah.
and she made the best homemade ice cream. And every year we had a fundraising for the 5th grade, and she always made ice cream, and it was so good. And she would let Celia and I, when we were in her class, we were a favorite too, out of maybe 20 people, and she always let us turn the ice cream.
I turned that almost into a full occupation that year. I was in the 5th grade. Ms. Ziegler liked to be, and I liked making ice cream. So that's what I did most of that year. Was we extended the fundraising. If it was not real cold, we were making ice cream.
And then do you remember, it had to have been in Mrs. Weed's 1st grade when you would take the coal bucket, and you had to go and get coal for the fire stove.
That's right.
In the classroom.
And if you remember, that's how you could also get a free pass to any of the school plays or any of the ball games, was to bring in firewood or lighter wood that they'd use to start the coal fire in the classroom. But yeah, we had a big pot-belly stove in every classroom that we used.
And you take your little bucket and shovel and head to the charcoal room.
Yeah. And we did have heat in the winter because of that fire, but when it got warm, we did not have air conditioning.
Air conditioning
No.
is definitely a luxury, along with TVs are a luxury.
Yeah, that's right. Do you remember your first TV?
Yes. I remember my first color TV. I don't really have a vivid memory of the first black and white, but the first color TV, we went down the street, and it was for the New Year's Day parade, and just about the whole neighborhood block went to the redheaded lady's house on the corner.
Yeah. Marie
I think it was, I can't remember.
Wilson.
That's it, Mrs. Wilson. Was it Mrs. Wilson? Anyway, she had the first color TV and invited the whole block neighborhood in to see the Rose Parade.
Yeah.
And I remember that very vividly.
Yep, that was, and the telephone. You remember what where our first telephone was up on the wall?
Yes. And you remember that Gaga was the first operator.
Yes, that's right. That's right. Have the switchboard down in her little living room.
Yeah, for the whole community. And she used to let us, when somebody would call, we could answer the
We would play operator. And we loved to do it because we found out if you'd answer the call and say, oh, that's Mr. Johnson. Do you want to talk to Mr. Johnson? I want to talk to Ms. Smith. Okay, we plug him into Ms. Smith's line, and then we could sit and listen to their conversation.
Yeah, and we had party lines.
Yeah.
You
You had
might
to count the number of rings, didn't you?
Yeah, and if you would pick up whoever was on the phone, you could hear their conversation.
Yeah.
And you would sit there and say, okay, how long are you going to be on the phone?
Yeah.
So then you would know what to time it before you could pick up to make your phone call.
Yeah.
You had to share.
You weren't going to get a dial tone until they finished talking.
So you had to find out how much longer you don't talk.
But remember, before Gaga was the phone operator, Ms. Mattie Bell Thompson down at the bus station, she was the phone.
I've forgotten about that.
And everybody would go crank the phone, and she'd answer, and she was hard to hear. So you'd have to yell in the phone, Mattie Bell, Miss Mattie Bell, ring Granddaddy's store. What did you say? And so, yeah, you'd have to yell into the phone. And that's how Gaga, I think, ended up being the operator, is they bought a new system. We didn't have to have the crank, but had just the black phone where you pick up. You remember how hard it was for us to travel, you know, for Jacob and his siblings to go to grandparents' house these days is a trip of sorts. How far was our trip to go to our grandparents' house?
Oh, probably less than a block. Well, we were right next door to Grandmama and Granddaddy Baker.
Yeah. If we were sitting on our back porch, we would walk off our back porch and go across the garden this way to get to Granddaddy Baker. And then we'd go across the garden this way into the yard of Granddaddy Atkins. Remember that? And what did we see when we went this way? What did we encounter when we got to Granddaddy Baker's going that way? After we passed the chicken house.
China berry tree.
China berry tree. Yeah, that's right. And
she
then
had
what
a big-
separated the lots?
The stone wall.
Stone wall, that's right.
And then the chicken
That's
little
right.
run.
Yeah,
They had the
little
chicken yard.
Chicken yard.
And we were just talking about this morning because you can remember having to wring the chickens' necks
Yeah.
and put them in the hot boiling water to pluck them.
That's right. That's right. And if you left the chicken house and turned right and went behind their house toward the garden, you remember what little building was right there beside the garden?
wash house.
The wash house. That's right.
I'm passing the test of time here.
There was the swing that hung under the big limb of the chatterberry tree, and then the wash house. And the wash house, that's where the activity was every Monday. That was wash day.
Yeah.
Because Granddaddy go